We are doing an incredible workshop with Masonhub, nailing your first, second, or 10th peak season, how to win the holiday season. So Patrick, Donnie, I mean, you guys I know that you guys have known each other for years. So I want to just start off and let's first get a little bit about both of your backgrounds. And just for context, Donnie, what is Masonhub?
So good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. We're super excited here. And thank you to Patrick for also joining. Masonhub is an order management and fulfillment platform that helps brands scale across multiple channels. So what does that mean? That ultimately means that we provide the customization and high touch fulfillment experience for our brands, as well as help them go into wholesale, any sort of omni-channel as they continue to grow. We've worked with a lot of brands, helping them support them through their extensive growth, including 13 Loon and 11 Honore, which Patrick can tell you more about. And really the impetus for starting Masonhub is I've been a retailer. I've worked in retail for most of my career, and I saw a huge gap in the market for operations. It's a pretty antiquated, not very sexy area that doesn't see a lot of technical disruption. And I saw that as an opportunity because I was investing a lot of our dollars as a retailer into these vendors, and constantly disappointed for two big reasons. One, from a technical perspective, and secondly, from a service perspective. And so that's what we set out to solve 3 years ago when we launched. We have about 40 brands in our portfolio currently. We're primarily focused on the beauty, fashion, and wellness space. And yeah, so that's a little bit about Masonhub and about me.
And Patrick, I mean, you have an incredible background, growing brands. I mean, just a little bit about your background, and then I want to understand how you both connected too, because I think it's a really interesting story.
Well, first of all, good morning. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. So quick backstory, 10 years in tech, 10 years in marketing and communications, fashion, and launched my first startup in 2017, 11 Honore, which the best way to describe it is the net-a-porter for plus size. For the first time, bringing designers that you've read about in Vogue and seen on the red carpet for the plus size consumer. And in the middle of the pandemic, post George Floyd, came together with my co-founder, Nikeo Grieco, and launched 13 Loon, which is the first of its kind inclusive beauty platform that celebrates BIPOC-founded beauty brands, creating generational wealth for those founders, bringing back to the community.
So wonderful. So, I mean, and so then Donnie, Patrick, how did you guys meet? And just, I would love to understand, how you decided to even collaborate.
It was a blind date from Forerunner.
Oh, you tell this.
I was launching 11 Honore. It was the summer of 2017, and at first glance, I'm very much a brand guy, and my investors were strongly encouraging me to find the right operational expertise that was missing on the team. And Donnie had just moved from New York to Los Angeles and had been with a couple high growth companies and was consulting as he was figuring out really his next step. And we met, I'll never forget, it was at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he was at capacity with his client count. And I had to sweet talk him into working with me, and he joined quickly thereafter and just got his hands dirty with sort of the nuts and bolts of our logistics operations, and grew into my COO, and then ultimately left to start this incredible company he's building.
It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so let's just talk about, I mean, and again, for any of you that are dealing with logistics, holiday logistics, you are talking to experts here, because what Donnie has done with Masonhub is extremely, like, he's reworking and doing extreme complexities with logistics. So let's just step right in into holiday 2021. and also Patrick, before we even go into that, let's go into the pandemic and how it was to really launch 13 Loon during the pandemic.
Honestly, it sounds so crazy that launching a business, and I mean, you know what you know, right? So the business was completely, obviously we support BIPOC founded beauty brands. So in a post George Floyd world, our mission was incredibly important that summer of last summer. So, from a logistics perspective, having the built-in partnership already with 11 Honore, and Donnie uniquely positioned because he was providing essential goods, so his operations were not interrupted. Like the back end logistics piece was so seamless that it's what really allowed us to focus on building the brand and the assortment. And so where Donnie's value add comes into play outside of just having logistical and operational expertise and cutting edge technology, he has the infrastructure that is so seamless from a setup perspective that it allows brands to focus on their core competency, which is what are they trying to sell?
And then let's talk about JCPenney and the launch that you guys are doing for holiday. What is that exactly? How is that, like, how did you guys navigate the complexities of that?
Well, it's so much more than just like the complexities of being omni-channel from day one. First of all, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity when you approach your business omni-channel from day one versus how are we scaling D2C, and then ultimately, okay, well, we hit capacity, we plateaued, we have to get into retail. And what I've learned through being a two-time founder now is that there's no magic bullet, right? This isn't 2012. We're not launching on Instagram. Like, the digital marketing landscape is incredibly competitive. The iOS update sent a lot of brands over the cliff. And so, having the opportunity to look at 13 Loon through the lens of direct to consumer through our own channels, as well as through our retail partnership in JCP, it's really setting us up for multiple levers that we pull at different times. But more importantly than that, just to understand the thesis of 13 Loon, so much of our mission is developing and amplifying these brands, many of whom are smaller. Now, many are very sophisticated from a supply chain perspective and have very sophisticated logistics capabilities, but I'd say at least 50% are on the smaller side. So when you think of what is required from a back end logistics perspective to partner with a JCP, it's incredibly complex. It's very sophisticated. And so what we've been able to do in a very short amount of time is being the platform, being the vendor of record, being the funnel in which everything comes in and out of via Masonhub, we're creating a unique opportunity for our brands to scale very, very quickly. Now, you throw a launch on top of a new brand, on top of a retail partnership, on top of holiday. Now, that's when it gets very, very complex. And so, again, I'm not paid to say this, believe it or not, but I really, really, really don't even think twice about my back end piece, right? It's not, I have so much going on to build this company. My co-founder and I are so committed to amplifying BIPOC beauty founders and building these businesses through our platform. And then overnight having this massive distribution partner, we're less than 10 months old, right? And so you throw that on top of a holiday, it's like, Donnie better not screw up.
And Patrick, just for scale, how many different vendors do you have on your site?
So we have direct to consumer, 13loon.com. We have at the end of this quarter 100 brands. So we launched with 13, we have 100. Through the JCP, through 13 Loon at JCP, we will have 40 brands. And that is 10 doors and online. And we've been advised that online is the equivalent of 100 doors. So you can do the math.
I mean, incredible that you're even able to set this up in 10 months. Like, kudos on the execution. Donnie, can you tell us the key things that you did through Masonhub that set 13 Loon up for success?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think Patrick explained it well, but more specifically, I think when Patrick came to me and said, "I'm launching this new brand, and we're launching in, weeks," it wasn't anything stressful on his part, right? Because what we did is we created we have a very seamless integration with his e-com platform, which happens to be Shopify. we can literally integrate with a few clicks by putting our proprietary app onto that platform. And we were ready to go, submitting ASNs. And then he says, in the summer, we're launching with JCPenney and we're going to have 40 brands and we're going to have, extreme volumes that are opening in a shop. And, I have no idea what they're asking me when it comes to EDI compliance, vendor compliance, like all these crazy requirements, because, at the end of the day, omni-channel is very different. And we all talk about omni-channel and how we want to go into it. And really the success of omni-channel really relies heavily on operations, right? Because you have to be able to get your product into those multiple areas. And, I think the unique thing that Patrick's doing is he's enabling all these other smaller brands to get exposure in these really large big box retailers that are really hard for those brands to get into those places. And so then we're creating this great ecosystem of supporting brands to go into these places. And the key here is the logistics in a lot of ways, right? I think it's probably half of the problem. But I think it's a great example of how we really position ourselves to really partner and be true partners with our brands to help them achieve whatever goals they're trying to achieve as they scale their businesses. And in this case, it's launching a brand overnight, bringing on hundreds of brands in a few weeks, selling and moving product into JCPenney.
So you both have been doing this, a long time, right? So what are the pitfalls for those brands that are new to the holiday game? What are the pitfalls that you wish that you could just, tell your younger self that you could avoid, or just tell these new brands, that are going into holiday, and especially 2021, are there any different pitfalls post-pandemic as well that you're seeing that people should be looking at?
Yeah, so there are a lot. There are several. So first and foremost, I feel like this is, I've done over 10 peak seasons in my career, and they're all a little slightly nuanced, but this one in particular is basically a new beast. We saw a lot of it last year during the pandemic, and I don't think it's not trending to change much. And what I mean by change is, what I wish what I really want to communicate to people is that the first and foremost important thing for brands to do at this point is set clear expectations with their customers. We are not going to improve on shipping, both inbound or outbound. That is, we're seeing it already. The docks are packed. They can't find, we can't find people to drive trucks around. It's gonna only get worse as the volume continues to increase towards holiday. So be very clear with your customers. Customers know, people know what's going on in the market. So if you try to hide it or don't set it up clearly to your customers, you're going to disappoint a lot of people and you're going to lose people. Some pieces of advice, sorry, go ahead.
So what's the exact communication that you would, as a brand, like what have you seen that's great, in terms of?
Yeah. So typically as you get closer to holiday, the biggest thing that people care about is getting their products before Christmas, right? So just be, set clear shipping cutoffs. If the carriers are telling you that the shipping cutoff is December 20th, tell your customers December 15th, right? But I think another, and there's a huge hesitation for brands to do. I mean, I know this from the marketing side and from a CEO side, you're like, but December 15th, that's like 10 days before. Another alternative you could do is you can pay for expedited shipping and subsidize that. In which case, if the shipping cutoff, the carrier says, is December 23rd, give yourself December 21st, right? You want to give yourself enough time, one, to be able to handle the increase in demand if that happens with the surge before holiday, but also you want to mitigate any risk that you're going to have with the carriers. And then you put a banner on your top of your site, that says, hey, due to, because at the end of the day, these are things that are outside of any brand's control. They're outside of Masonhub's control, right? We can be the best, the fastest, but at the end of the day, it's, here you go, USPS, here you go, FedEx, UPS. And, I think customers are pretty understanding, but you just have to always remind them, because no matter how understanding they are, we all tend to forget a little bit. And so as long as everywhere on your communication is, hey, please expect, shipping delays due to the pandemic.
Great. What other pitfalls, should people be thinking about during this new beast of and I know the beast of e-commerce. I mean, we just shifted e-commerce into an incredible stage, and
So the other piece is also on the inbound side. So as we all know, the ports are backed up. Getting product into even domestically because of trucking capacity challenges. So I think one thing to also note is if you don't have your product on the water now, you need to get it out as quickly as possible. Right now, October is really seen as the peak inbound receiving month, meaning that that's when people are getting most of their products in. But in the pandemic, what we saw is last year, the actual peak for receiving was in middle December, right? And so what we've advised most of our brands is a lot of our brands is like, try to get your receipts in as early as possible because of the extensive delays. Now, if you get into a delayed situation, some of the products that we offer are putting pre-sale and back order management, right? So you can communicate, you can sell your product before you actually have the physical goods so that you don't miss the demand. The downside to that is that your customers are going to be waiting. And so, again, clearly communicate there's a delay on the product, but that way you don't miss out on the demand during a very important selling season for all brands.
No, that is, this is all really such great takeaways. Patrick, what one more. Good, Donnie, you're the expert.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought of something else. The other thing from a shipping perspective that we're offering our clients now is we've expanded on our fulfillment center footprint. So we're splitting inventory for brands across multiple fulfillment centers. So that also mitigates the risk from a carrier perspective, because, if California and Southern California is backed up, you still have inventory on the East Coast, and you reduce the risk of delays across all of your products.
You're thinking about things so strategically, especially with this different beast type of environment that we're living in. I understand now why Patrick is entrusting you with all the logistical information, logistics for 13 Loon. Patrick, what do you think are the holiday pitfalls? You've been through holiday through, all of your various companies, and I'm sure this is a different beast as well, post pandemic. What are you seeing in the market right now?
Donnie touched on it. It's supply chain. It's a supply chain across the board. We've done it several times at 11, so feel really confidently about how we're delivering on fall, right? And then really managing sort of the new year deliveries in a timely way, because you've got supply chain challenges, and then you have Chinese New Year. So you have challenges on top of challenges. And so you just have to get ahead of it. And I think Donnie made a really good point. It's all about managing expectations with your customer. It's being very clear that this is the cutoff date. If you want it by this date, this is that date. If this is the last day for express shipping, whatever it might be, you just want to ensure that that your customers are aware, because you just don't want to disappoint your customers during a holiday. And with 13 Loon, where we're really uniquely positioned, is, so much of the work for holiday really has been now, right? The summer and pre-fall. And so as we're heading into holiday, all of our doors that we're activating in 2021 will be live the first part of November. So I feel confidently that from a logistics perspective, we've been able to onboard the partnership, receive, send out. So the reality is our biggest challenge on the JCP 13 Loon side, and really the 13 Loon direct side, will be chasing inventory over holiday. And so that is, as they say, a luxury problem in two businesses, one very much rooted in a very deep investment in inventory, having the problem of chasing inventory. As a retailer, I'll take that problem over sitting on too much inventory. And I also think, this sounds a little silly, and it's an approach I certainly can improve on. It's like, be kind, right? Like, it's that the world has been through a global pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of people. And so from a supply chain perspective, it's like, yeah, do your best, plan ahead, but you have to understand that there's only so much within your control. And the reality is, manage customer expectations, get in front of it from a messaging perspective, and just be prepared to, we will have a challenging holiday. But I also think it's interesting. I was talking to somebody about it yesterday. Whenever you have a conversation with a brand, this happened to be with the founder of a bourbon brand. Yesterday I was having a conversation and I said, well, how are things going? He's like, oh, it's great, but supply chain. And it's like, but everybody's experiencing it. So it's not like I'm experiencing it. It's not unique to me. It's not unique to Donnie. It's like a global problem. And so it's not, everybody's kind of like 2 miles behind. And so it's just making sure that, I think Donnie nailed it. It's just managing that communication to your customer, because you just don't want somebody thinking, their kid's doll is showing up on the 23rd and then it doesn't arrive.
I love that. And then in terms of managing your communication for these retail partnerships and creating that, is that similar? I mean, how did you manage the communication around logistics, with this partnership with JCP?
Well, the beautiful thing about JCP is, like, we're walking before we run. And the total rollout 600 doors, and that'll be within the next 12 months. But Q4 is 10 doors, and this isn't a test. This is just from a logistics infrastructure perspective on the JCP side. This is the quantity of doors we were able to fulfill this year. And so to be able to fulfill through, and for those who don't know, Sephora has been at JCP for the last 15 years. Sephora is winding down. Penny's is reimagining their beauty offering called Penny's Beauty. Within each Penny's Beauty, there will be a physical 13 Loon shop and shop, right? So we will have 10 of those this year, 300 of those Q2 of next year, and then 300 I believe Q4, Q1 of 23. And so to get these 10 doors down and understand the technical challenges with EDI and what's involved with that, and getting our flows and processes in place, and understanding the account management needs on the Masonhub side, and what fulfillment and logistics operational support we need on the 13 Loon side, it's been an awesome case study to set us up so when we do hit scale, we're optimized for efficiency, right? And that's the gift. That's my holiday gift, is that I only had to get into 10 doors. But more importantly, our holiday is happening now. And so once we're active in the doors, we can focus on marketing communications, supporting our third-party brand retailer, which is JCP. Donnie did the heavy lifting to get our product on shelf. And now we focus on marketing and messaging, which is where we excel.
I'm getting so many messages on how do we get involved with 13 Loon or can we apply? How do we work with Masonhub? So, I think I would love to just understand, first of all, that question. I would love to answer that because I think people are really, really interested. And at what stage you want to work with brands. I think if it's a stage thing as well, just knowing what stage that they need to be at.
Yeah, for us, 13 Loon, we're all about the internal and external messaging for 13 Loon is discovery. So we want to run the gamut from a price perspective. We have $8 Afro picks and we have $300 serums. It's all about efficacy, 100% clean and non-toxic, BIPOC founded, where we reserve 10% of our virtual shelf space for allies. So non-BIPOC founded beauty brands that have been supporting the BIPOC community across and deeply since they've been a brand. And so it really kind of starts with efficacy of product, how it fits into our overall assortment. You know, we're really about hyper curation to ensure that we don't have 70,000 face washes, right? There's a combination of SKU count that complements existing SKUs that are already on shelf. So that's really how we look at it. We have an incredible merchant who came from Net-a-Porter, who is building this business with my co-founder Nikeo from a product assortment perspective. And you know, that's I mean, from an actual inquiry perspective, let me just retail a real time find out the best way. I believe it's brands at 13 Loon, but hold on.
And Masonhub team, I know that you're on. If you want to just put, you know, the right contact in chat, just so that people can, because I know that there's a bunch of beauty brands like you know, so excited to figure out, you know, that are probably having such headaches with their logistics, and so just that would be great. And Donnie, what stage are you looking to, or what's the ideal stage for a Masonhub brand?
Yeah, so it varies. I mean, we've had brands that we've launched. We have brands that are you know 9-figure beauty companies. So we our sweet spot is really brands that are doing 2,000 to 5,000 transactions a month. But we're pretty flexible depending on the brand. And the team will reach out. I did see a question out there about where our locations. So we have 3 locations. We have 2 in Southern California, and we have one in Eastern Pennsylvania, about an hour and a half outside of New York City. And that is a brand new facility. So we have a lot of capacity in that area. And yeah, so, you know, the Masonhub team will drop in chat where they can contact us. Kristen, I think, just posted it.
Awesome. So Patrick, I am very inspired, and both of you guys, I'm very inspired. During the pandemic, there's a lot of people that kind of put their head under the covers and did nothing, right? And just let the world pass them by, or tried to like just kind of go through and go through the motions. You and Donnie have been so proactive during that. And, you know, I just love to understand, what is your big vision for 13 Loon? And you know, you launched this in the midst of a pandemic. What do you see for it long term?
So when you think about the genesis of our company, we walk the walk and we talk the talk, right? So it's co-founded by a white gay man and a Black woman. It was born in the throes of the pandemic, right? And in a world that we have reimagined in a post George Floyd world. So when you think of the magnitude of what we were all experiencing summer of 20, it was heartbreaking on so many levels. And when you talk about, you know, how I approached it or how Donnie approached it, it's like at a certain point, like, putting your head on the covers isn't going to solve a problem, right? And the anxiety that we all experienced with the world cratering, right? You know, my way of dealing with that is immediately getting into a place of action. And when I think about the magic that is 13 Loon, and how Nikeo and I just every decision we made, every idea we concepted, everything just came together very, very quickly. And it just was the energetic sign of the time that we were on the right side of the conversation doing the right thing. And I'm often quoted as, you know, we're not moving seats around on the Titanic, right? We're building an entirely new ship from day one that is rooted with the right message of inclusivity, one that is doing good and well at the same time. We don't have to take a 15% pledge. We don't have to reimagine our board structure. We don't have to look at our Instagram feed and see if it's inclusive enough. We're building the right company from day one. And there's very, very, very few people who can say that, who launched the first of its kind inclusive retail beauty platform in the throes of pandemic post George Floyd, right? So we get to do it right today without having to remodel, right, the business that has sort of not been meeting all of what it should be from an inclusivity perspective. And when I think about scale, look, I mean, we were live 90 days before the conversations with JCP started. And within 10 months, we're going to be live with America's oldest retailer. And I think at a certain point, consumer sentiment, certainly it's what we hear about the younger generation, but I think everybody, your dollars matter, and they need to, you as the consumer have the power, right? And allocating those dollars to mission driven businesses, it's like, if you can't volunteer and you can't march and you can't write a check, well, guess what? You're buying things. And if those things come from a retailer that stand for something, I ultimately think that's what people are looking for. And so from an expansion perspective, I mean, look, we're going to be in 600 doors and online and JCP in the next, 12 months. We're building a direct to consumer business. We're launching 2 private label brands. We've got global distribution. And, I'm really, really proud to be an ally to this movement, right? And I'm playing a small part, but that's your job as an ally, right? To get behind the conversation in a meaningful way that isn't about you, right? This is about our founders. It's about my co-founder. It's about, stepping up and doing the right thing, doing the work, and, the rest just falls into place.
I mean, I'm getting chills just from that. I mean, thank you. Thank you for doing your part and really starting something that's meaningful for our whole community. Donnie, what big, I mean, you are, I'm sure, one of the busiest people, especially right now for holiday season, but I know you have big plans with Masonhub. You had a very clear vision when you started it. You just keep, leveling up and what is the big vision for Masonhub?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like hearing inspiring stories like Patrick's and 13 Loon, and watching those brands and helping them scale. That's ultimately our vision, is for brands that want to continue to grow and grow their businesses, that we're their partner and provide the technology and the service that they need to grow their businesses. It's very inspiring for me. People ask why I do this, and I really just enjoy watching many of our portfolios just flourish and be right that, be with them along the way. And that's what I've always loved. And that's what I've always loved about being in operations. We're gonna, and as Patrick always tells me, we're making logistics sexy.
I mean, I think with the personalities of both of you, you've actually made this the most interesting logistic conversation that we've had on our platform. So thank you. Thank you for that, Donnie. Thank you, Patrick. You guys were really unbelievably inspiring. I can't wait to see you guys in person when our live shows come back. But thank you for everything that you guys are doing for our community.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan.